Tony Stark and Peter Parker are two of Marvel's most beloved heroes. But why did Tony Stark, the genius billionaire playboy, take a young high school kid from Queens under his wing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? What made Tony Stark, a man who once proudly said,
And I am Iron Man,
choose to mentor Peter Parker? Tony Stark's need for redemption. To understand why Tony Stark became Peter Parker's mentor, we first have to look at Tony's journey in the MCU. From his very first appearance in 2008's Iron Man, Tony Stark is a character who undergoes a profound evolution. He starts as a selfish, egotistical billionaire, but through a series of life-altering events, he realizes the responsibility that comes with his power. Tony's journey in the MCU is largely about redemption. We see it time and time again. He's constantly haunted by the mistakes of his past, creating weapons of mass destruction, enabling villains like Ultron, and pushing boundaries without considering the consequences. By the time we get to Captain America: Civil War, Tony's guilt over the fallout of his actions is at an all-time high. Do you remember the scene in Captain America: Civil War when Tony is confronted by a grieving mother after giving a speech at MIT? The woman, Miriam Sharp, tells Tony about her son, who was killed in the Sokovia disaster during the battle with Ultron. This moment hits Tony hard because it puts a human face on the collateral damage caused by their battles. It's no longer just about abstract consequences. This is a real person, a grieving mother, and a lost life. This scene marks a turning point for Tony. It forces him to confront the fact that even with the best intentions, his actions as a hero have caused pain and suffering. He's already been dealing with guilt over his past mistakes, like creating Ultron, but this encounter deepens his resolve to make things right. Tony's decision to mentor Peter Parker comes from this place. He sees himself in Peter, a brilliant young mind, full of potential, but also vulnerable to making bad choices. Tony doesn't want Peter to go down the same dangerous path he once walked. So, in a way, mentoring Peter is Tony Stark's form of redemption. By guiding Spider-Man, Tony is making sure that Peter doesn't repeat his mistakes. He's trying to be the father figure that Peter lost, while also addressing his own guilt over the harm his creations and decisions have caused. Peter Parker's role as the Everyman hero. Now let's talk about Peter Parker. What makes Peter so different from the other heroes Tony could have mentored? Peter Parker is the classic everyman superhero. He's not a billionaire like Tony or a god like Thor. He's just a regular kid from Queens trying to do the right thing. That's what makes him so relatable and why Tony takes such a keen interest in him. Unlike the other Avengers, Peter doesn't have vast resources, he doesn't have military training, and he certainly doesn't have a global support system. He's just a smart kid with a good heart and incredible abilities, and that's exactly why Tony sees him as special. Tony likely sees Peter as a pure hero, someone who hasn't been corrupted by power, fame, or responsibility. It's this purity that Tony wants to protect. He knows how dangerous the superhero life can be, and he's trying to shield Peter from those dangers while still allowing him to grow into the hero he's destined to become. The father-son dynamic. One of the most powerful dynamics in the MCU is the father-son relationship between Tony and Peter. Peter lost Uncle Ben, the most significant male figure in his life, which left a void in his heart. On the flip side, Tony Stark has always struggled with his relationship with his own father, Howard Stark. Tony's dad was distant, more focused on his work than on his son, which left Tony with some serious emotional scars. Tony's complicated relationship with his father made him fear becoming a father himself.
He was cold, he was calculating. He never told me he loved me, he never even told me he liked me.
However, when he meets Peter, we start to see Tony's paternal instincts kick in. Tony begins to care about Peter in a way that he's never cared about anyone else. He doesn't just see Peter as a fellow superhero, he sees him as a surrogate son. Their relationship isn't perfect though. Tony is tough on Peter, sometimes too tough, but that's because he sees the potential for greatness in him. He pushes Peter to be better, to be more responsible. After all, with great power comes great responsibility, right? This father-son dynamic is crucial to both characters. For Peter, Tony becomes the mentor he never knew he needed. For Tony, Peter becomes the son he never had. And this relationship humanizes Tony in a way that nothing else in the MCU ever has. Building the next generation of heroes. Tony Stark's decision to mentor Peter Parker stems from more than just personal affection or a sense of responsibility. It reflects a larger, overarching theme within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU. Tony represents the veteran members of the Avengers, those who have been safeguarding the world for years. while Peter symbolizes the younger, rising generation of heroes who will carry on that legacy. As we witness in Avengers, Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, there's a significant transition taking place. Characters like Tony Stark, Steve Rogers, and Thor, icons of the Avengers' original lineup, are stepping back, while a new group of heroes such as Peter Parker, Doctor Strange, and Captain Marvel begins to take center stage. Tony's mentorship of Peter serves as a reflection of this deeper change within the MCU. Aware that his time is limited, Tony is intentional about preparing Peter for what lies ahead, ensuring that the world will remain in safe hands even after he's no longer there to protect it. This idea is cemented in Endgame, where Tony ultimately sacrifices himself to save the universe.
Tony, look at me. We're gonna be okay. You can rest now.
In doing so, he places his trust in the new generation of heroes to continue the fight for justice. Peter, in particular, stands as a crucial part of Tony's legacy. He represents Tony's hopes for the future, a younger hero who, through Tony's guidance, is ready to face the immense challenges that come with being a protector of the world. Tony's decision to lay down his life in Endgame is not just a heroic act, it's a statement of faith in those who will follow him. He knows that even in his absence, the world will be defended by the likes of Peter Parker, an embodiment of Tony's vision and hope for the next generation of heroes. The emotional impact of Tony's death on Peter. Tony Stark's death at the end of Endgame leaves a massive void in Peter Parker's life. In Far From Home, we see Peter struggling to live up to Tony's legacy. He feels the weight of Tony's expectations, and he's unsure if he can be the hero that Tony believed he could be. Peter's journey in Far From Home is really about coming to terms with Tony's death and figuring out how to be his own hero. Yes, Tony was his mentor, but Far From Home is about Peter learning that he doesn't need to be the next Iron Man. He needs to be the best version of Spider-Man. Tony's influence on Peter is undeniable, but ultimately, Tony's death forces Peter to grow up and step out of his mentor's shadow. So, why did Tony Stark choose to mentor Peter Parker? It's a combination of redemption, responsibility, and hope for the future. Tony saw himself in Peter, a young, brilliant mind with the potential to change the world. But Tony also saw an opportunity to protect Peter from the mistakes he made, to guide him toward becoming a better hero. Their relationship wasn't just about Tony helping Peter, it was also about Peter helping Tony find the humanity he thought he had lost. And in the end, their bond transcended mentor and student. It became a father-son relationship that defined both of their arcs in the MCU, and it's a relationship that will continue to shape the Marvel Universe moving forward. What do you think? Was Tony the right mentor for Peter? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the MCU. Thanks for watching, and remember,
with great power comes great responsibility.
until next time.